Welcome to the Stage Traveler, Episode 2.
Where your host, Corey Bell, sits down with veteran musician, singer-songwriter, Nash.
Hey, my name is Corey Bell, and I am the Stage Traveler. I love me some live music. I always have. And working as a culture blogger, a travel writer, and a music journalist have allowed me to experience it all over the world. One of the best parts of catching so much live music is getting to see all the different spaces it's performed in, from the little hole-in-the-wall clubs to the grand historic theaters. So tag along as my plus one as we check them all out. We'll chat with the people behind the scenes, have a few laughs, and learn some cool shit along the way. Let's go!
Ask you about a couple superlatives, I guess. What's the biggest place you've ever played?
Biggest indoor venue, I think, was an Amphitheatre in Minneapolis, opening for the Counting Crows and Maroon 5. I think it was a 3,500 seat kind of auditorium, which was really fun. David McGluck and Charlie Gillihan from Counting Crows sat in with me. I was just playing solo acoustic, and they both sat in with me and made it a lot of fun, and it was a nice response.
When was that?
That was a long time ago. 2008.
2008.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Half your career.
Years and years and years ago. We played a run of, in 2015, we played a run of nice theater shows with the Milk Carton Kids that were 600 to 1,000 seat theaters.
Okay.
Which is, it's really fun. It's fun to play.
And in the Bay Area?
In the Bay Area, I played Great American Music Hall. It's not
I like
huge,
that
but
place.
it's a great room. It's where, I don't know if you're a fan of the Grateful Dead, but when I was a kid, One from the Vault, it's this recording from 1971.
That was a Great American?
Came out, and I listened to that thing. I wore it out, listened to it over and over again. And that was recorded at Great American, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, the Grateful Dead played at the Fillmore 50 times in 3 years? I think that's when Bill Graham was running it. Yeah. 50 times, over 50 times.
Yeah.
There's a big ass picture of Jerry Garcia actually in the Fillmore right above the stairs that go up to the balcony.
Yeah, that's kind of I gotta put that on my to-do list.
Your bucket list?
Yeah,
your venue bucket list?
Gotta get in the Fillmore.
Gotta get the Fillmore.
Play a proper show at the
See
Fillmore.
those chandeliers. Fillmore's a great place. It sounds awesome. It's big.
Yeah.
Bartenders are cool. They got good drinks, good food.
Really?
Poster room is awesome. They got a room upstairs that has a bar and has light bites.
No.
And they have the walls are just covered with posters from the 60s.
I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that I haven't even been to the Fillmore. Sad.
You gotta go.
It's not right. I mean, I guess
that's a destination for sure.
But every time I've been to San Francisco, it's either that or I'm playing a show. So I play the show and then I go. A lot of times people are hosting, whether it's a venue, and I've played as a singer-songwriter, I've played a fair number of house concerts.
Mm-hmm.
Played a lot of them in the Netherlands and in Germany and even in the UK. There have definitely been some weird house concerts.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're allowed in the
in the canon of
in the category.
There are.
But I think that probably the weirdest gig that I ever played was the first year that I was, taking a crack at playing music as a living.
Mm-hmm.
I was living in New York City, and I lived in this apartment with this guy who I didn't know, and I basically slept in like a closet. It was like maybe I think it was probably about 7 feet wide by maybe 9 feet long. And I had like my futon in there, and he's like, "Hey man, you want to play a gig with me on New Year's?" And I was like, "Yeah. What's the bread? What are we playing?" And he's like, it's mostly standards, And so he gives me like a list, a chart, a book of charts, And I'm like, I can probably swing this. We get in his car to drive up to the gig, and we drive up to Harlem, and it turns out to be, a nursing home for the infirm up in Harlem on New Year's Eve. And it was just completely not what I was expecting. My expectation.
Again, it keeps freaking turning on.
back to the weirdest gig. So New Year's Eve, we're gonna go play this gig. We get in the car to go drive up to Harlem, and we pull up at this nursing home for the infirm. And you know, it's really ancient people in various states of repose, and I was just shocked. I thought we were playing a cocktail. In my mind, it had been described as a New Year's Eve cocktail party, and you know, at the end, it was actually very rewarding. You know, playing music for folks that are in that stage of life is actually really nice. Whether they can fully express it, you know, it's not rock and roll glory by any means, but you know, feeling kind of like music is the closest thing we have in this world to magic.
Oh yeah.
And it's pretty cool to see what happens. Now, more recently, this past summer, my bandmate Josh Day and we played a maximum security prison in France.
In France?
In France, yeah. And
what are maximum security prisons in France like?
They're similar to. They're a little bit nicer, but similar to here. Although, like, the well-behaved inmates are allowed to kind of roam free. They have more privileges, and they get access to these events. So we played this concert. There's no guard in the room with us while we're doing the concert, and it's maybe 40 or 50 guys, and these are the heaviest criminals in France. You know, these are mobsters. These are murderers and rapists, and you know, they have been convicted of some rough stuff. And we played a couple songs, and they were pretty enthusiastic. And I said to Josh, I was like, "Should we get these guys to sing? Should we ask these guys to sing?" And Josh was like, "All right, here's the part." You know, so I'm like, "We're gonna do this." And I'm like, "Do you guys want to sing?" And they're like, "Yeah!" You know, they went bananas, and we got to the chorus, and it's this song of mine that's kind of a sea shanty. It's kind of got a, you don't even know any lyrics. It's just a kind of a chant, and they went bananas. And it felt really good to be a part of that.
That's cool.
You know, like,
that's unexpected.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing. You know, it's like, all right, so these guys are maybe not such great dudes, and they're paying for their sins, and they're presumably in a pretty dark place. But to see the human lights, you know, go on, and that connection to take place that's why we do it. That's why it's worth it to travel, you know, thousands of miles, you know, year in and year out, and go and do it. It's like, you know, sure, it's a way to make money, but there's an indescribable and irreplaceable connection that takes place in a room with live music.
Oh, yeah.
You know, between everybody in the room, and you know, that is like a sacred thing for me, you know. And I'm just like, you know, you talk about like retiring. It's like, I will never retire, you know.
You can't retire from your like life force.
Exactly. You can't. Yeah.
Your purpose.
Yeah. Well put.
So where would you say like the emotional parts of the night that you really like, feel the most? Like, excitement or the nerves, or
Even still, I've probably played thousands, if not 10,000 shows. You know, a lot of shows. But still, you know, before I go on, I'm always full of adrenaline and butterflies and excitement. And if I didn't feel that, I think I'd be worried. I used to have a couple whiskeys before I'd go on, and
courage.
You know, it just felt like it was the right combination. You know, to get into this mystical place on stage. And I don't drink anymore before I go on, because I do kind of like to harness that feeling, to bottle that feeling, and to make it a little bit more of a sacred thing. And you know, it is almost unbearable right before you go on, like the just sort of like this restlessness.
Oh yeah.
But then once you're into it, that energy, I think, is quickly transformed into the engine that is the catalyst for that connection. And then once that happens, then it's effortless. Once you feel like you kind of lock into the collective consciousness of the room, then it becomes effortless, and it's also addictive in its own way.
No, I can't believe the papers.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to tell. Sometimes the perception from the stage is not accurate. There's plenty of nights where it's like, the audience might be particularly still for whatever reason. They're not giving it up the way you might expect that they would, or that you might want them to. And then after the show, like, you have your biggest merchandise night of the tour, or people are just incredibly effusive online afterwards talking about it. Sometimes you can't tell. There are those outliers, and then there's other times that, like, you think it's really happening, and you don't get all that reaction on the backside of it. Or sometimes you think that you're totally tanking the show, and people are just like, it's the greatest thing they've ever seen. So it's hard to know. It's hard to know beyond, and you got to be really careful, I think, to avoid listening to yourself, and try to witness the performance and the exchange and the connection from outside yourself. All you can do is just be in it, as much as possible, and be in the moment, and listening to the other artists on stage, the other musicians on stage, towards the end of making music together, and not being so carried away and hearing your own self, because I think that becomes, no matter what you're doing, it becomes overly cautious anyways. At the end of the day, it's live, and you should have this component of raw emotion and electricity, in a room. But certainly, sometimes it's, you don't fully achieve liftoff. It's just like you play the show, and it's like, that wasn't our greatest. And that's a really frustrating feeling. We generally, I would say, with the Contenders at this point, it's hard earned, but like we're feeling like we're getting there, most nights, and kind of beating our personal best, every night. Yeah, for sure. Well, it's funny, the last 6 or 7 years we've been going over to Europe and playing in the Netherlands and Germany. And the shows that we play over there, many of them are sort of privately run, or in kind of unusual venues. And they, not to take anything away from shows in the States, which can be really great as well, but the last few years that we've gone over there, it's kind of been like each night is even more incredible than the next night. It's like, how can we be subject to such great fortune? Whether it's just like an unusual space, like a castle or an old windmill, and then like what'll happen though is, like, if somebody's like reaches out online and says, "Hey, I want to put a show on for you over there," like, you can almost be like, "Well, yeah, let's give it a try," and then they just run with it, and they get their whole little town together, and that actually is starting to happen more, I would say, in the States. And like, we get back to venues, like I talk about that place, Space. There's a place over in Maine called Stone Mountain Art Center. Higher Ground up in Burlington is a great venue where the hosts, the proprietors, cultivate an unforgettable experience for both the audience and the artists alike. Because if everybody is feeling it, then you're going to have that, that connection that we're talking about, that electrostatic excitement,
Yeah.
And I think that when there's an absence of that kind of mindfulness, then it's a little harder to come by.
True. So, like, where are your favorite cities in the States?
My favorite cities in the States to play, certainly Chicago, Boston, Philly, New York, DC are kind of up there. Charlotte, North Carolina has been a lot of fun. Wilkesboro, North Carolina, which is where Josh is from. We just had a run of dates, like I think 4 or 5 shows in North Carolina, and they were all, they had sort of that same excitement and fun of like those shows in Europe. Just like, people really hold the music in very high regard. I lived in Los Angeles for 9 years, so I just love getting back there to play, and there's like so much nostalgia and old friends and mixed with people that saw me play when it was the very beginning. Denver's a great music town too. Denver's a really fun town to play. Some cities it doesn't matter if you're playing a weeknight or weekend, but like as an example, Denver and Boston. You play Boston on a Wednesday night and people are so subdued. You play on a Friday or Saturday, it's bananas. And Denver's kind of the same way. It can be like, oh wow, you guys are really reserved. It's like they're really holding in because everybody's working during the week, and they're just like, no, I drink on Fridays, and that's when I party.
But I drink on Fridays.
But they're just, they're pumped up, they're singing along, and it's a great experience.
Jay Nash, the man, the myth, the legend. Thanks for checking in. Till next time. Bye-bye.